The pound fell by 1.7% to just above $1.41 on Monday.
Breaking tonight, the Dow Jones Industrial Average took a nosedive at the opening bell, finishing down more than 600 points on the day.
And while the UK is still sussing out what exactly it means to have left the European Union after the Brexit vote, Americans are asking themselves, how does this affect future seasons of Game of Thrones?
The UK has voted to leave the European Union. As a result, we've already seen massive losses on the stock market and a huge devaluation of the British pound. In Scotland, where citizens just voted to stay in the UK, it's safe to say heads are still exploding.
Politicians seem to think that the likes of us are silly. Feed you a lot of nonsense and you'll listen to it, but we're not that silly.
But what will be the long-term consequences of the Brexit vote? What exactly is it? And why should we care?
The British people have voted to leave the European Union, and as such, I think the country requires fresh leadership to take it in this direction.
Would you like to be Prime Minister?
Well, I would like to be the lead singer of an international rock group.
Brexit was a non-binding referendum on the UK remaining in the EU. UK's citizens voted 51.89% to 48.11% in favor of leaving. The two main impacts this will likely have on the UK involve the economy and migration. While the EU works as a single economy, the UK's economy will now be separated out and controlled by the UK independently. The UK will no longer have to comply with European regulation and would now be allowed to create tariffs or taxes on goods imported from Europe. Immigration, which was sadly one of the main driving forces of the Leave campaign, might also be affected. Currently, as a member of the EU, UK is subject to unrestricted immigration from other member countries. Everyone within the EU is allowed to go anywhere else in the EU without a visa or special work permit. But this is also a two-way street. As the UK exits the EU, its citizens may now find it harder to live and work in Europe. Another fear is that other members of the EU, like Denmark or France for example, may begin to reconsider their own membership. Additionally, Scotland is likely to take another vote on its status as part of the UK.
We need proper facts.
And if they were to leave, Northern Ireland may consider reunification with the rest of Ireland or even independence.
We're already talking about borders between Northern and Southern Ireland. I mean, it's just a ridiculous situation to contemplate.
In short, Brexit could lead to the breakup of the United Kingdom, a dismantling of the European Union, and turn England into a backward, xenophobic economic wasteland. Or Brexit could end up being nothing. That's right, nothing. No long-term effects whatsoever.
This does not mean that the United Kingdom will be in any way less united, nor indeed does it mean that it will be any less European.
Remember, the vote was a non-binding referendum. Although Cameron is stepping aside to allow the process to continue without him, separation will not happen until Parliament approves it. If public opinion shifts or multinational corporations put enough pressure on British politicians to delay efforts, it's actually possible that the UK ends up staying in the EU after all. Or the UK's negotiated exit could end up dragging on forever. The negotiations are supposed to conclude within 2 years, but as long as the UK and EU agree to continuing talks, the deadline can be extended. More likely, UK's change of status would end up being a distinction without a difference. The UK is very unlikely to put up major trade barriers with the EU, as even as a separate economy, the EU would still be its main trading partner. And although EU's economic regulations would no longer apply, the UK will have its own laws, which are not very likely to be much different. And the UK may slow European immigration, but if it wants its citizens to be able to live and work in Europe, it will probably have to offer a balanced deal. Perhaps the UK will slow its flow of European immigrants, but those jobs will still need to be filled somehow. So perhaps they'll increase immigration from places like Nigeria and India to replace the European immigrants. That would be a fun answer to those who voted for Brexit for xenophobic reasons. Ultimately, Brexit could have profound impacts on the UK, Europe, and the world. Or it might not really end up having an impact at all. So until we see how the exit negotiations go, where Britain's internal politics go from here, and what trade and immigration policies are implemented in the UK in the future, I find it very hard not to wonder, why should we care?
We cannot turn our backs on Europe. We are part of Europe.